Now more than ever, transportation business owners need industry experts at every stage in their company's life cycle. We bring them to you in the hot seat.
Welcome to In the Hot Seat with the Tenney Group. I'm Spencer Tenney. Good to be with you. Our guest is William Braddy from Kraft Asset Management, and he's going to be addressing some really great wealth management issues for transportation business owners. William, welcome to the Hot Seat.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So real quickly, just to help our audience understand a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Okay. We call it a wealth advisor, but what I basically am is I'm a planner, and I deal with all kinds of people and specialize a lot in the trucking and transportation business. Have a lot of clients in that area. I've been doing this for 23 years. I've been where I am now for about 4 years. We're advising clients and trying to help them, plan for the future.
Well, let's jump right in here. So what are 3 things that are of the top concerns when people come to you, ask for your expertise? What are their 3 most common questions?
I'm dealing with mostly business owners and transportation operators that have been around for a while. And typically they're thinking about, what's next? What do I do? How do I wind down? How do I transition my business to either a family member or to my employees, or how do I sell it? What do I need to do? Mm-hmm. So that's typically the top concern, and typically it's also how much money do I need to retire?
So you and I, just to kind of follow up on that response, we had this conversation about a client that we were helping begin to potentially, engage us to sell their $50 million trucking company. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, the owner just could not mentally get there. And so, I discovered through the process that he had about 90% of his personal net worth tied up in this business. And I said, let's just call him John. Mm-hmm. John, please, if we're not going to go act on this information right now, please go talk to William and see what we can do to try to diversify some of your net worth out of this business. So there's hundreds of folks just like that John guy. So what can you tell our audience about what are some examples or some ways to get some of their net worth out of the business, diversify while they still own it?
A lot of the ways that I go about doing things is not really just on the investment side or wealth side. It's really protection. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking asset protection quite a bit now. And one of the big concerns that I hear from different owners that are out there is asset protection. There's caps on some insurance in some states and not in others, and they're trying to figure all that out. So we're doing a lot of asset protection work, mm-hmm. and we may use that as a way to get money out of the business or taking money out of the business. And what we do is we say you don't have to recap your business. You don't have to take a bunch of cash out of your business. What we generally do is we say, let's set up a systematic time every month, every quarter, that we pull an amount of money out of your business and we invest it.
One of the things you said a moment ago, we talked about wealth protection, mm-hmm. or asset protection, either one.
Yep.
This comes up a lot with our clients. For instance, we have a client, $100 million in sales, with a potential successor in the 3rd generation that's come up in the ranks.
Yep.
It's a little younger, but still, it might be 5 to 7 years in terms of a realistic time frame for that person to be equipped, mm-hmm. to take over that responsibility. What advice do you have to business owners as it relates to wealth protection, diversification, when we have that timeline in there, that in-between stage for business owners where they don't really know where the business is headed?
Yeah, I bump into it. I'm sure you do too. A lot of companies have a lot of cash on the balance sheet. Mm-hmm. And what we'll do is we'll back in and say, how much cash do you really need in your business? And, is there an amount of money that we can pull out of this to have the wealth outside and to potentially protect it? And there's new legislation all over the country. It used to be just in Delaware and Alaska and a few others, which allows asset protection trust, where you can pull money out. And after a certain period of time where they make sure that you weren't facing some sort of litigation, that money is protected from creditors. So we have that set up, and we can pull either a lump sum out, or we can pull a little bit out at a time and fund something like that for them. Mm-hmm. They have to be comfortable with that money going down to the next generation because they're irrevocably assigning it to that. But there are ways to protect family wealth in that way. And most of the type companies you're talking to have the wealth where they want some of that in that type of vehicle.
100%. So for the average trucking business owner that's coming your way, what advice would you give them in general? Let's say that they're 10 years away from an exit. What are some practical things? Let's just say 2 practical things that they could start doing today that would give them more options in the future to either build or protect wealth?
Good question. Reduce debt, number 1. Let's make sure we have, we plan for today. Let's make sure we have a good estate plan in place. Let's make sure we have buy-sell agreements in place if there's multiple owners. Let's make sure that, we are buttoning up the idea of systematic withdrawals out of the company so that we have things like that. Going back to my other thing, find a hobby. What are you going to do when you sell this business?
That's a great piece of advice.
And people, that's really helping us connect with those individuals and showing, hey, we've seen this before. We do this and we understand you haven't, but it kind of helps us build that credibility with those clients because we care about them. We don't want them to quit one day and not have anything to do. So it's really, it's thinking through all those things. And we have a checklist of items that we go through and we help them understand how to get ready to sell. And we tell people, we need to be in there in front of you 3 to 5 years before you get ready to do it. Mm-hmm. And that way we're really prepared and you're going to get the better outcome.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So let me ask you this.
Yep.
One final question in the hot seat. What is one book, maybe over the last year, that you have read, whatever reason, that you would recommend to our readers out there? Could be on any topic.
Oh, wow. Wow. There's so many business books out there that I've read. I went back and I read Jeffrey Gitomer is a friend of mine, and he wrote something called the Sales Bible.
The little red book,
the little red book.
Yep,
He's in Charlotte.
I know Mr. Gitomer. Yeah.
Yep, and he one of the things that he always said is he says, people always want to buy, but they don't want to be sold.
Hey, that's a good word. We'll leave it there, William.
Thank you
for being in the hot seat.
Yep, thanks.
All right. That'll do it for us. I'm Spencer Tenney with the Tenney Group. We'll see you next time.